Don't believe everything you think. Why your thinking is the beginning and end of suffering. What we hold on to perpetuates our reality. What we let go of creates new possibilities. Chapter 1. The Journey to Discovering the Root Cause of Suffering. People have a hard time letting go of their suffering. Out of a fear of the unknown, they prefer suffering that is familiar. Before we can explore how to end our suffering, we first have to understand what we mean by suffering. Suffering is not the same as pain, and understanding the distinction between the two is a key to realizing that no matter what happens in life, we do not have to suffer emotionally and psychologically. A Buddhist teaching helps explain this concept. It is said that 2 arrows fly our way whenever we experience a negative event. Being struck by the first arrow hurts. That arrow is pain. The second arrow is our emotional reaction to the first, and often it is even more painful than the first arrow. That second arrow is where suffering originates from. The Buddha explained, in life, we can't always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. The second arrow is optional. In other words, pain is unavoidable, but how we react to that pain is up to us, and that reaction will dictate whether or not we suffer. Now, I'm not saying that difficult experiences we've been through are all in our heads. On the contrary, terrible and unfortunate things happen to people every single day. I'm saying that although we inevitably experience pain in our lives, suffering is optional. And it is this suffering from which we can learn to free ourselves. When I first heard the story of the 2 arrows, it was a revelation. It gave me a new way to understand the suffering I was experiencing. The problem wasn't the pain itself. It was in my reaction to the pain. But this excitement was quickly followed by a new wave of confusion. How could I simply choose not to suffer? If it were as easy as that, no one would suffer anymore. On my journey to find peace, I came across many teachings, studies, and methods that promised to eliminate this suffering. I read dozens, if not hundreds, of books, studied psychology and philosophy, talked to therapists, and tried changing my habits, waking up at 4 a.m., following a vegan diet, becoming more structured and disciplined. I did shadow work, breath work, energy work, hypnotherapy, studied personality types, meditated daily, went on spiritual retreats, followed spiritual masters, and researched ancient religions. You name it, I've probably tried it. I was desperate to stop my own suffering, although some of these things did help me, and they've likely helped you too. They didn't end my suffering. I still felt anxious, fearful, unfulfilled, irritated, angry, and frustrated every day. Even after trying everything, I didn't feel any closer to a solution. And if I'm being honest, I felt even more hopeless than when I had begun. I didn't know what to do anymore, where to look, or who to talk to. It wasn't until I was in my darkest hour that a glimmer of hope began to lead me to the light. Suddenly, after years of searching, I stumbled upon a concept that took me right back to the teaching of the 2 arrows and how I could prevent the second one from hitting so I didn't have to suffer emotionally anymore. The answer was in understanding how our minds work and how the human experience is created.